Okay.
Got it.
Hi, welcome back to She.Abidespodcast. I'm Denise, your host. I wanted to kind of introduce a little different segment than I've normally been doing because just the way things have been set up with the people that I have for interviews and scheduling and different things, there are some gaps. I have some personal things. I'm in school. Last semester was horrific, but I made it through, thank God. And so I was just kind of really seeking God about what to do with the in-between. And he gave me, a segment called Coffee and Conversation. And where that came from was because I have a sister and a cousin who live out of town. And on Saturday, they're both registered nurses. So on Saturday, when they don't work, we get together, we schedule a Zoom, and we sit and we have coffee and we just chat and we get caught up, and that's how we stay connected. And so I have a very dear friend from high school that I do that with regularly. And so she is my guest today, and I am so excited for her to be the first person to have coffee and conversation with me. So welcome, Mia.
Thank you for having me. I am so glad to be here and getting to be your first guest on Coffee and Conversation. So this is pretty awesome. I'm excited. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. So listen, so I call you and I say, Mia, I want to do this coffee and conversation thing. And I just want it to be just relaxed and us be natural and just do what we do when we get on the phone and have coffee all the time. And you come on here with makeup.
Let me tell you something.
And I don't wash my face and I'm all comfortable and just.
We switched places because I'm usually you 90% of the time. So let me do my thing. And in my defense, it's a light beat. It ain't a whole bunch. It's just some bronzer and little something.
Listen, do you, boo? Okay, do you? I want you to be. Listen, this is natural. This is what we would do.
Look, I act like we went to Panera. So, instead of being at home, it's Starbucks.
Listen, I appreciate you getting done up for me. It makes me feel good that somebody wanted to get done up for me. Meanwhile, I'm in the back, like, let me get comfortable. Let me take a shower, put on my pajamas. And, I did have my coffee. And, one thing that I can have coffee at any time. Like, people are like, if I drink coffee after a certain time, I'm staying up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the Latina in me. I don't know. Because we can have coffee at all hours of the night and we still going to sleep. I will still go to sleep. Coffee does not keep me up.
It is, I think it's an age thing too, because I used to be like that. Now I can even look at the clock and go, it's about 4:00. If I make a cup of coffee now, that's going, and I'm gonna be up a little bit longer, but I'm still gonna be able to go to bed at a reasonable time. But it hits different now at 41. So,
Yeah, see, it's still the same for me. And I'm drinking out of my cafe cup. My mom, listen, my mom is addicted to Ray Dunn, okay? And I think I've told you before that, like, we keep feeding her addiction. She got bird houses all over, Ray Dunn bird houses. Ray Dunn.
I didn't even know Ray Dunn made bird houses, but anyway, go on.
Listen, she got a whole house full of Ray Dunn. I'm like, you need to buy stock. I don't even know if I'm going to check.
Because it's not cheap.
Right. She has everything Ray Dunn. Her whole kitchen is in Ray Dunn. She even had, how Latinas are about their rice. She has a rice holder. I mean.
That is over the top about the rice holder. That right there. You're a Ray Dunn fan when you got one for your rice.
Listen, she has Ray Dunn sugar holder. Ray Dunn all over her house. She even got a Ray Dunn soap dispenser for her dish, for the liquid, the dish detergent. I was like, what is this?
That's called My Kids Are Grown. That's what that's called.
Yes.
That's called My Kids Are Grown.
Yes.
Right about now, it's like it goes enough and it works. And if they break it, my feelings won't be hurt. So, okay. Yeah.
Right. So when her grandkids come over, she putting up all the stuff, but now we're all grown. She, she has the money to blow on Ray Dunn stuff, I guess. So I need to check and see if they have stock, girl, and buy her some for Christmas or something. So we can get some return on
exactly on your investment. Yes.
this Ray Judd investment. So listen, so I wanted to talk to you about confidence. Because I went to Maryland last week. As you know, I was house sitting for my brother and babysitting my fur nephew for a week.
Yes.
And I was so surprised by every time that I went to like a restaurant, they wanted to like sit me at the bar, or, you know, they were like, are you expecting other people?
Or by yourself.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's just me.
Oh, and I want a table.
Yeah, you want to sit at a table? Yes, I do. I want to sit at a table because I want to be by myself. Because if you sit at the bar, then you got to talk to folks, right? And sometimes I just want to be alone.
Yes.
And I even took an Uber to go explore the city, and I went to Annapolis and, you know, just have a good time alone.
Yes.
And the Uber driver was like, oh, are you meeting friends? And I was like, no, I'm not. And he was like, you're going alone? And I was like, yes. And even he, as a man, said, I don't know that I could do that. Like, I don't know that I could be alone.
Yeah.
And I started kind of thinking about that. And I was like, you know, there was a time where I couldn't do that either. Yeah. But I think it kind of came from being confident in it took a while, obviously, you know, doing some work, but I kind of realized that like self-care sometimes is being alone, and especially with people like us who are like so busy. We have families, we have businesses, we have you know, church obligations, and so sometimes that being alone and being centered kind of is it is my self-care. Sometimes I just need to kind of wind down.
Block out all the noise and just.
Yeah. And I was really so surprised by how many people struggle with that. So like I even was talking to my sister and she was like, I could never do that. I could never go and eat somewhere by myself. And, you know, like I go to the movies by myself.
Yeah, that's my goal. I have a goal to go to the movies alone. Yeah. Good snacks and a movie I want to watch, and I'm gonna tell everybody to shush. Because James is good for that. And I'm like, can you be quiet, please, so we can I don't need your commentary. I'm trying to really watch the movie. So
so let me kind of go with let me read the definition of self-esteem. So self-esteem is typically defined as confidence in one's own worth or ability. As a Christian, I define self-esteem as having confidence that I am who God says I am.
Okay. I like that.
It's not dependent on my own abilities, right?
Correct.
Because those can be unreliable, right? Like we go through our emotions, you know, there's things that happen and we kind of get to a place where it kind of gets a little rocky for us, right? But instead, knowing that God will equip me for the work that he has set out for me, I have confidence that I'm not doing it in myself, right? I'm doing it. He is my strength, so I'm able to do it.
Amen.
But do you find that that's a common thing that people struggle with? Like, especially women. He was the first man that I've ever heard say, I don't know that I could do that. And I'm sure
men usually don't even, especially that's that pride thing too. Even if they feel it, they're not going to tell you that. Right. So maybe he just knew he wasn't going to see your butt again. So he was like, I can see this.
Right.
So, right. But if you catch him again, he ain't going to admit to it. So somewhere else.
Right. And you know, that was even God was in that conversation, right? Because at first, listen, I'm not going to lie. I text my sister and I said, hey, I'm in this Uber and he's a little chatty. Here's the Uber information. If I go, I'm missing. This is the last Uber I was in, okay?
like talking to you a little too much.
Yeah, I was like, dude, drive, focus on the road, but even in that conversation, God allowed me to minister to him.
Mhm.
And and it's just so weird because it has also taken me a long time, same vein of being confident. It's taken me a long time to speak what God gives me to speak to other people. I mean, you my sister, we've been friends since the 10th grade.
That's
And
crazy.
even sometimes I say, so Mia, I got something to tell you. Right. And I'll be like,
And I have told you, I don't want to hear it.
right, God wants you to know. Right. Like I even still sometimes struggle with just sharing how God gives me things for people.
Yes.
But even in that moment in the car and just having that conversation with him, and he started talking, like it got quiet for a minute.
Yeah.
And then I just heard the Holy Spirit say this. And what I said to him was, this must be an interesting job. And he said, well, it's funny you say that because I come in contact with a lot of people. Some people are wealthy, some people they're poor, and I'm picking them up. Some people have cancer, and some people are going through a divorce. And he kind of was just talking about, his day and how sometimes he comes home and he's drained and he's not feeling well. And, he might feel sad or depressed and just different things. And he just doesn't know where that comes from. And then I realized, okay, here it comes, right? And so, the Holy Spirit had me say to him, sometimes we don't realize that what we're doing in our day-to-day life is ministry because we think that we don't have a platform. Who am I? Like, I'm just an Uber driver.
Yeah.
And, I said, I really want you to start getting up earlier and praying before you start your day and covering yourself because you're coming in contact with so many people. And you're doing ministry. And when you come in contact with people and their spirits and, all those things.
Yes.
And he started crying.
Oh.
And he was like, thank you so much for saying that. You don't know how much this means to me.
Wow.
And I could tell you were a woman of the word when you got in here because he said it just seemed lighter in here. And it just seemed so much brighter, right?
Oh, wow.
So I just was like, well, thank you for saying that. And I just said to him, like I got out and I was like, be blessed. And I said, can I just say a prayer? And he's like, yeah. And then I just prayed. But there was a time where I would have never done that.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't have the confidence in knowing who God has called me to be. And I think that confidence comes from a lot of work. I mean, that didn't happen. That did not happen overnight. Sometimes I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed every minute of being alone. I didn't stay at, in the house the entire time. Like I went out and I experienced things and I explored and, found fun things to do. I went like on a cruise by myself.
I saw that. I was like, yeah, this is definitely Denise.
Yeah. And I just like, well, I love being on the water. So there was like no way that I wasn't going to find my way to the water. And I just sat there and just even sitting like in a corner by myself and not talking to anybody or not being standoffish because as people passed by and spoke to me, I obviously spoke, but it was just something about being alone and being able to really like, God, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to say to me in this season? Like, what do you want me to do? Because ultimately it's always about being obedient and living a surrendered life to what God calls me to.
Yes.
And so I think as women, a lot of times our life is built around our families, our children, our husbands, all of those things. And I'm guilty of that as well. Always putting other people first.
Yes.
And then neglecting myself so that I'm so tired, I'm so worn out, I'm so exhausted that I can't hear what God is saying, let alone do what God is saying to do. Right. And so I think it's always important to take that time to be able to refresh and renew yourself. But what do you think about that?
Well, and what you touched on when you mentioned about being a mom and wife, like, though, I mean, both of us became young mothers and wives early on. I mean, so to even get a chance to know who you are, we didn't. It was like,
Right.
oh, time to be wife and mom. So, they came first.
Mhm.
And here comes, 30 and 40 rolling around. It's like, well, hold on. What does it look like to even, I mean, just to have your peace? And it's not saying don't take care of your family, but how can you be good to them if you're pouring from an empty cup? And
Mhm.
so it's a learned thing. One of the things that I have learned is to set boundaries.
Yeah.
That has been a big, big thing for me, to be able to hear from God, just to take that time for myself and just kind of press pause and just have that time for myself. And what I've started doing is, and I can't be totally alone because Chloe, our dog, loves to follow me everywhere. So she's usually 9 times out of 10 out on the deck with me, but just to sit outside and the fresh air and just sit out in the sun and just take some deep breaths and just have some silence, because my house is loud. I hope you don't hear my son shooting basketball right now. He has that little hoop on the door and it's like wham, wham, like, so, but for me, I've learned I had to set boundaries, and it's a healthy thing. It's a self-care thing. And I learned by doing that, it helps you to not be depleted. And it's honoring people in your life and honoring yourself, because then you're able to be kinder, not burnt out, and not resent other people for kind of stepping all over you, even though you didn't make it clear about, either downtime for yourself or just what wasn't okay for you, so I can go on, but even in business, because us being women in business, that's the other thing. It's,
Right.
again, setting those boundaries, and God is totally involved in I have a home base, as you know, baking business. And so he is all up and through my business. And anyone who gets anything baked from me, it is definitely, the Lord is all up in the mix, and me and God talk a lot, because it is him. I step away sometimes and I'm just going, wow, I can't believe that I knocked that out and I didn't feel stress. And I was able to, reach the timeline and do that. But it's when you've learned to kind of, the confidence comes into taking some time and hearing from God and knowing what's for you and what's not. It's a constant journey, but that comes with the confidence to, you learn your confidence from sitting still sometimes. That solitude, that's important. So, but confidence comes with that. It's because usually you kind of feel safe when you're around a bunch of people, because everyone has an opinion and how you should do something. And, both of us, we bounce ideas off of each other, but when it comes down to it, it takes some boldness and confidence to set prices, start a podcast. I mean, you have to know yourself and grow to be able to do those things. So my mom even laughed when I talked about having the podcast. I was like, Denise and I are gonna, she invited me to her podcast, and she was like, oh, you seem so calm about it. And I was like, oh, yeah. She's like, I guess you being in front of the camera all the time before doing the lip sync. She's like, and doing your videos for your baking stuff. And I was like, yeah, I never thought about that, because back then I was so nerved up about it. But and I think also that age comes in there too, where you just like, girl, life too short. Life can be short. No, I'm not gonna. People are gonna have something to say regardless, and as long as you have God, leading you on the path that you need to be on, and instilling that confidence in you, and it helps you to know yourself and be confident, because you're walking out in your purpose. So
right. It's funny you say that, because the age thing, right? Like, I don't even think we think about that.
No.
Because when I actually thought about that the other day, because I seen this young lady that I know, And she was doing some stuff that just, look, don't do that. Okay. Don't do that. Right. So I said to her, listen, I'm just going to give you my advice. You don't have to take it. You're going to learn eventually what to do and what not to do. And I'm sure that when I was your age, someone was telling me not to do something and I did it anyways, right? Because it's just part of the journey. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't judge people, because I'm like, yeah, I remember when I used to do that. Listen, I am glad. And every birthday, I am glad. Okay. And people are like, my sister was like, aren't you just like flipping out every time your birthday comes around? I'm like, girl, no, I am glad I'm not young and dumb anymore. Girl. I am glad that I have some wisdom, that I am not doing the same things that I used to do.
I joke sometimes and say my guardian angel, when I cross over to the other side, he's gonna have some words for me, and I might get slapped a couple times because I know I should have been on some milk cartons.
Yes.
You just don't, at that, when you're so much younger, you just don't think about things and you think you're invincible. Yes. And with the company you keep, just some of the things you do that young and dumb, it just, But you do, it's a blessing to not be judgmental. I don't ever want to come off like a judgmental auntie trying to tell somebody, like, I ain't done my mess.
Right. And I told her, I said, listen, been there, done that. Okay, that's why I can come to you and tell you.
Yes.
And we didn't have social media, so we weren't telling on ourselves. Okay, y'all are
yes.
Y'all are telling.
That is the other thing.
let's get it together out here.
Thank God.
Okay? Yes. But I just said to her, you know, I really didn't think about confidence coming with age. Mm-hmm. I just thought about all the things that I went through that, you know, kind of were like building me to be more confident.
Yeah.
And, you know, like even on Sunday, you know, we had an amazing service at church. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the evangelist, you know, gave me a word that I needed to hear. And it was just confirming everything that I already knew. But sometimes it's good to hear it from somebody that's outside of your circle and it's outside of, you know, people who know you intimately. Mm-hmm. Because there is more of an impact. And so, you know, that's why I just reached out to her and I said, listen, honey, because like you said, I don't be nobody. I just want to be somebody's fine auntie. Okay. I don't want to be nobody judgmental auntie. Okay. Like I just have to accept that. I'm just somebody's I'm working on the rich part. And one day I'm gonna be somebody's rich fine auntie. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
I never want to come off judgmental. I want to instill, you know, confidence into our young girls, because I've been there. I struggled with confidence for a long time. And, you know, now I know who I am in Christ and what I'm called to do, but that came from other women coming around and, you know, planting seeds and watering them and really just taking time to build me up when I was down. Yeah. And I think sometimes we forget that we don't have to go at this alone. I think we're always like, I can do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. But there's so many times that I call you, and I'm like, or text you, I'm like, you busy? And I know you busy. You baking. Yes, I'm busy, girl. I'm baking. Yes. What do you want? But I think it's important to have those people, like you said, who can say, okay, listen, you know you're wrong for that.
Yes.
But let's just bring it back. You had your moment. Let's bring it back and this is what we're gonna do. Like,
and I think even that authenticity comes across, like it's received better when, I mean, people can tell just the genuineness when you care about that person and you're not trying to judge them and you're saying, hey, I am not perfect either. I have done some of the things that I will not share, but blah, blah, blah. Right. That's why I can say, hey, you might want to think twice before doing X, Y, Z. Right. But when you are coming across as someone who's trying to belittle someone or just act like you are better than, or I don't know why that, number one, what's your intention? It's definitely not to really help them. It really is to make them feel smaller. And unfortunately, there are some people that age, they're older than me and they still, I'm like, I feel bad for you because you learn nothing in life. You still bitter,
Right.
and so I don't ever want to come across that way, ever.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what would you say is the one thing, what's something that you went through that helped you with your confidence?
Whew, man.
Because I know there's a lot of things, right? Like when people ask me that, I'm like, there's a lot
I
of
know,
things.
it's like, pick one. Let me see. What is one thing? Well, even motherhood, really. And I know it's because I have 4, but I had to learn to kind of step outside of myself because they needed me. And so some of the things that I would usually kind of go, try that with my child. And it's one thing for me. It's a whole nother thing when you mess with my children. And
Right.
so, that mama bear but at the same time, and there was one incident that occurred, and it was a teaching moment for my daughter, but it was a little bit of a confrontation, not for me. It started off with me asking a question, and the lady got real nasty with me. I mean, like, just ugly. My sister was there. And when she sees this, she'll be like, oh, I know exactly what she's talking about, because Misha's ready to turn that whole place upside down. But my daughter watched how she was and the whole time I kept my cool. I'm not going to say it was easy, but I had to remember number one, I'm a Black woman.
Right.
If I cut up in a majority Caucasian place where I was, I'm trying to keep it just in case, but you know how that can come across.
Right.
And number two, I have a daughter who was watching me. And I didn't even think about it till afterwards that when she said to me, Mom, why were you being nice to her? And I just turned around and said, but you know what? Guess who looked ugly the whole time when this whole thing was going on? Me or her? She raised her voice. She got, and I was like, but that is dealing with my children. My children have made me think twice instead of popping off and how I carry myself, because it's more than just me now. So I will absolutely say becoming a mom, that definitely was a pivotal moment for me, because right then, and you think about it, in the hospital, you got to start speaking up for what the baby needs. Hey, we need this. And, being young, you're just a little mousy, whatever. Oh, can I, well, not you. I don't know if you were ever mousy.
Right.
But me.
No, because when I became a mother, it was Denise BC, okay? Denise before Christ. So we know I was not being mousy about my baby. Like, I was his advocate for sure.
Yes. And that did it. Being a mom, out of I'll say that. And the other one, being a businesswoman, that's the other, because you have to be more bold. You have, putting my prices out there, putting pictures of myself out there. People have so many opinions. Well, being able to say, I don't do fondant. I say that is not my ministry. That's exactly what I say. Fondant is not my ministry. Unless God changes that. Right now, that is not, I have no desire. That's not what I want to do. And that is not what's making me money. So, but I used to kind of before go, maybe. Now I'm confident enough to say, that's not my lane. There are plenty of other people who do that and are great at it. I am not one of those people, and I have no desire to. So yeah, so I would say motherhood and being a businesswoman. Those, even though you asked for one, get you two. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of that as I was preparing for our conversation. I kind of was like, what is something that, really made you confident? And for me, I think it was, when I got married to a military man, and I moved away, and I went somewhere that was so far away from my family. And he left all the time for his job. He trained soldiers to prepare for war. So he would be gone for weeks at a time. And I was in this brand new state with a new baby, like all by myself. Yeah. And I think learning how to manage a household, manage a budget, learn how to advocate for myself as a spouse, as a mother, all of those things really began my journey to my confidence, But I think as I evolved into womanhood, like you said, with age, things started changing, priorities started
Yes.
changing. And knowing who I was, as confident as I appeared, I
Mhm.
wasn't, right? Because
Yeah.
I, had a bunch of issues that I had not at the time healed from. So,
Mhm.
I had people pleasing, and there was
Yes.
trauma, and there was
Ooh,
just
the
all
people
these
pleasing.
things that I just didn't, you know, um, and I'm so grateful because God brought women alongside me to really nurture me and, say, this is how you should do this, and this
Yeah.
is, one of the things that I would do if I were you, and just different things like that. And when I sit back and reflect on those women who came alongside me, it has given me the confidence to be that for somebody else, right? Because I know what it meant for me in the time where I was lost and I was just out there and just doing
Yes.
whatever, and just kind of like flailing. Like I was like trying to do all the things, right?
Goodness gracious. Yes.
Um, and I find that it's still a process, it's still a journey to confidence. Like even in who I am now,
Mhm.
like with the, my current job that I do, I have never been in tech, never been in software development in any of my careers.
Mm.
And I joined this whole new industry, whole new world, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do or say. I'm gonna, and and they're like, come sit in this meeting and come do this and come do that. And I'm like,
That's
okay,
called favor, girl.
right, right. And then I sit
Mhm.
there and I'm like, I know what they're talking about. This makes total sense to me right now, right? And so then I feel confident in,
Mhm.
giving my opinion. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe we should do it this way. And they're like, yeah, why didn't we think about that? And it's just like all of these things, and then it just keeps building your confidence, right? And I think you said something about fear earlier. I think fear keeps us from growing and moving in confidence. So even when we know that we're scared to move, and so we don't grow, right? Because it really is,
Become
I
stagnant. Yeah.
right. So like think about when you're a little kid, you're not afraid to try anything. You will just do it. But it's just, I think as we start growing and people start saying, oh, don't do that and blah, 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 and this and that, and we kind of start pulling back,
Yes.
we have to reverse that, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, it was unlearning the lies that I learned.
That's good, Denise.
Yeah, like unlearning the lies that I learned along the way, and then really deciphering, okay, what is God in this and what isn't. And when
Yeah.
I started to kind of learn to change my perspective and look at things differently,
Mhm.
then I started seeing, okay, yeah, I can do that because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
although I can do all things through Christ.
Amen.
And so I started going like, okay, is God in this? If
Yes.
God is in this, I'm
Mhm.
going to do it. I don't
Yes.
know what's going to happen,
That's
and I
right.
don't know how it's going to be on the other side of this, but I'm trusting that He's on the other side. So therefore, I am walking in that confidence because I know who God has called me to be. And so I
Yes.
think that really that comes with, like you said, time and allowing people to really pour and
Yeah.
encourage and lead, right?
Mhm.
You have to be able to follow sometimes. You can't
Yes.
always be in control and
Yes.
leading. Oh,
Yes.
let's not even talk about the control thing. I had to get rid of, girl.
Oh my God. Well, and even then control is fear is a part of that, because if you're in control, then if anything, you can avoid wrong things happening, oh,
Right.
this is not, you keep yourself in that little bubble. But when you
Yeah.
let go,
Mm-hmm.
and you let other people lead, and trusting others to, and that's where you learn from certain mistakes, even, okay, maybe I shouldn't have trusted that person.
Right.
Lesson learned. But the
Yeah.
only way to grow is through some mistakes and some bumps and bruises along the way. But one of the things that you did say about childlike, and God talks about that, about having
Mm-hmm.
that childlike wonder, and that's part of trusting Him.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, that's why I was like, that's powerful when you just talked about unlearning the lies, because we
Yeah.
are taught when we're young to just, and not on purpose, but you just become more, you
Yeah.
get that fine line of caution and fear. It's just,
Right.
you know.
And I think being women of color, that kind of is an underlining thing that we are taught,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Especially us, because and this isn't to take anything away from our parents. We are amazing women, and it is because what our parents gave us.
Absolutely.
But they also did the best they could with what they had, right?
Yes.
And so when I look at, my dad being a Black man and saying to me as his daughter, you prepare for the worst, and then if it doesn't happen, then you're good, right?
Yeah.
That is like
Yeah.
the most horrible thing to teach somebody, right?
Yes. What's that line? Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I always had a plan B, right? I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, but if this don't work, I got this, right?
Yeah.
And then so I never enjoyed the moment and the moments that God brought into my life because I was always ready for something to not work.
Waiting for the other yeah.
Right. So I didn't have my trust in him, right? And so I think that that's just part culturally something that we learn that, other cultures probably don't have to worry about. No, I know they don't have to worry about it, right? Because
Facts.
they don't have to worry about, they don't have to worry about the things that we worry about. But I think unlearning some of those things gave me confidence because, again, it wasn't in my ability, right? Like Denise isn't going to do it. God is going to do it.
Right.
And I learned that for sure. And I'll wrap up with this. So I watched a show called Chosen. I don't know if you watch it, but it's on all of the app stores for Android or Apple. And I suggest everyone watch this show. So it's basically the story of Jesus in his later in life. And it's all fun, like crowdfunded. They don't have like a big studio that's funding them. And so the shows kind of start with Jesus collecting the disciples. That's where it kind of starts. And so I was having a conversation with a friend and I was telling her how one of the episodes, the disciples are sitting around a campfire with Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Jesus, it's dark, and Jesus is still off healing and delivering and mind regulating and healing broken hearts and doing all the amazing things that Jesus does for us, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking about the first time that they knew that they needed to follow him. And in the midst of having the conversations, they start fighting because Matthew is a tax collector and you chose to be a tax collector and go against your lineage and your people, and you were causing harm to us knowingly, and and so they're fighting. And as they're fighting, Jesus comes and he's weakened and just exhausted from all the love that he has poured out of his body for these people. And all of them stop. And he comes and Mary runs to him, helps him get situated, and they hear him in the tent still praying to God to give him strength, to help him do it again the next day. And what I took from that scene is you don't know until you know the goodness of God, right? Like it's scary to follow somebody that you don't actually really know a lot about. They just knew, I want whatever he has. I don't know why I'm following him. And they're talking about, Peter's talking about how he's got all the fish in the boat because Jesus told him after being fishing all night to put his net back down. And he gets all of these. and they got to experience the goodness of God. And I think that when you don't know the goodness of God, you have this back and forth. But when you know, you
Yes.
can't go back, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when I experienced a couple years, it's been 2 years now, the peace of God in a situation that could have torn me apart, I can't go back to anything less than that, right? So when you know who you are in Christ and what Christ has done for you, and you know that there isn't anything that can take you back.
Yeah.
So sometimes people think I'm coming off as a certain way, but it's not. It's just
No.
that I know what God has done for me.
Yes.
It would be a slap in his face to go back to something less than what he has already given me, because he has shown me provision. He has given me peace. He has loved me when I was unlovable. He has loved me when no one else loved me. And so I can't go back. And so my confidence is not in me and my abilities and who I am as a person. It's in him.
Yeah.
And I can't walk around with my head down because I already know that he has paid the ultimate price for me.
Yeah. And that line, I mean, like I said, when you were going through something that you're like, I should really be losing my mind right now. But that line, the peace that surpasses all understanding, I remember saying, I get that now. I know, before you just heard it, people say it, but when you are actually living that and you're like, this, I should not feel how I feel. I am so at peace. I know the footprints in the sand, I know he's carrying me right now. Because if I was doing it in my own strength, please, I'd be in a corner balling somewhere. Like, so, and it's a boldness you have to have in Christ. It's not even an arrogance or like you said, when you know that you know, that's that boldness where I'm not going to go back there. I'm not going to allow you to take me there. Why would I put myself in certain situations to make the old Mia react or, fall into some traps when I'm past that now and God has been too good to me. So, yeah.
So we're going to wrap up, but I want to give some books that I have read that have kind of helped me with my confidence. So I am obsessed with Dr. Henry Cloud. I follow him on Instagram. I follow him on YouTube, whatever he's got, I'm on it, because Dr. Henry Cloud is amazing. And I was given one of his books as a self-development book. But as I was reading it, and it's called Necessary Endings.
Necessary Endings. Okay.
Necessary Endings. And when I was reading it, I was like, this kind of feels like it's Christian principles in this, right? And so then as I finished the book, I realized that he is a Christian.
Wow.
And so he does, he's a therapist, and although he works in the secular world, he is very much Christian based. And so his book, Necessary Endings, was the first book that I read. And it kind of talks about having the confidence to end some things that we know need to end. But we hold on to them because it's comfortable, and we don't have to move forward with anything if we stay there. So I read that a couple years ago. A friend was giving it to me as a self-development tool for my business and, how I was developing professionally. And so I fell in love with his writing right then and there. And I started following him. He probably is like, why is this woman following me on all social media platforms and liking them?
Stalker. You see your picture on there.
Look, and liking the same posts on every social media platform. Like, it's so good. And then he has a book called Boundaries, because we talked about setting boundaries and how that helps us develop in our confidence.
I'm definitely gonna look him up. Yeah.
Yes. But don't be following him on all social media platforms, messing up my algorithm.
Wait a minute. And she's friends with her.
Yeah, something going on over there. But he's amazing. And then there's another book, and I just had it, but see, I got all worked up about Dr. Henry Cloud.
I'm about to say.
Yes, I'll have to tag the other book when it comes back to me. There was
Yeah,
three
I'll say
books
put
that
it
I
in your, yeah.
wanted to mention that really kind of helped, and help. I'm not done with Boundaries. I think it's great. He just kind of released it, and so he's just now doing teachings on it on his social media. So like I follow some of his things. But boundaries are important, not just for ourselves, but for the people that are around our lives, because if we're always doing it for them, they can't learn. Oh man, now I'm like, I should have wrote it down, but I will think about it and link it.
Yes, because I'm intrigued now. I need to see who Dr. Henry Cloud is, because I don't know who he is, but I'm about to find out.
Yeah, so he's really good. And he has like I said, he's a therapist, so he's a licensed, clinician, and he
not an internet.
No, he's not one of those internet people. But ain't nothing wrong with him. Listen,
no, it's not.
Listen, because life teaches you some things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But as for me, in my house, like,
I just think I thought, everybody's an expert. Some people,
right. Right. I want to know there's some letters behind their name when they speaking things into my life,
just a little.
Yeah. So, well, Mia, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you, because you are a business owner, and I have had the honor of coming and just sitting and watching you work. And I know I said this to you when I was there, like, it's like sitting there drinking my coffee and eating them cinnamon buns. Okay. Which I am paying for right now. Okay. Let me tell you, my doctor was like, you can't come back here weighing this in 6 months when I see you. But I am just in awe of what you do and how you do it. Like you said, you are a mother of 4, and you have an amazing, prospering business. And I am so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you. So thank you. Thank you so much. I don't take that lightly, because you put in your work. So
yeah. So tell everyone where to find you and how to follow you.
You can follow me. I'm on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook. On Instagram, it's 4_Mias. And I am on there. I'm a little cartoon. So you see a little brown girl with a bun. That's me. And I'm also on Facebook, and it's MIAS, but the I is lowercase. I wish I should have had a business card in here, but I don't. But yes, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. So
okay, great. And I will tag that also in the bio so that everyone can find you. And like I said, this is not the norm for Army brats.
No.
To have a friend that you're friends with from high school this long, because we move around so much.
Yes.
We lose contact with people.
And I'm a horrible pen pal, so I know I've lost.
Yeah, but
1 or 2 letters, that's it. We're done.
Right. But I think with us, we had a connection very early on. Mm-hmm. And it was always very strong. Mm-hmm. And neither one of us knew then what God was doing in our life. But now when we look back, we're like, okay, God.
Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I am just so grateful to have a friend that I can still call, have coffee with, and talk about all kinds of things. And you know what I love? We don't even have to talk about stuff we did in high school. You got them friends with us.
I'm like, can we still be here? Can we nothing else? Oh, okay.
Right. Nothing else has happened, but we have experienced some things together.
Yes.
I have come when you moved into your new house and like prayed and blessed your home with you and your family.
Yes.
And I love it. Love that God continues to grow our friendship, water it, you know, and it is just continuing to blossom. And I'm just so thankful for you.
I am you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very grateful for our friendship. Because like you said, my circle is this big. This big. We're both outgoing, but you are so good at just, I am not. I am a true, the low maintenance friend. If we can't just pick up after not talking for a.
And we do, because I mean,
Yes.
sometimes we go periods where we're
Yes.
not talking.
Yes.
And that comes also with growth, right? I had
It
this
does.
conversation
Let people
with
be people.
Yeah.
For
And
life.
and I had that conversation with Eileen this morning, actually, because, you know, I said to her, those
I
are the
love her.
friendships that I need.
Yes.
I need people that aren't going to need me to talk to them every day. I can't talk to you every day, honey. I got a business. I got a family.
We talked about that too. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I have
those boundaries.
Yeah, I have church obligations.
Yes.
I can't sit and be on the phone with you all day.
And if you're a really, really a good friend, you respect that and understand that it's not about you.
Exactly. But there are those seasons, right? There are those seasons where we go and we don't talk for months. And then there's like, we talking every day. Hey, we
picking up right back like no time.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I am thankful for
those are the friendships.
Yes.
That I am thankful for, and you are definitely one of them.
Thank
you for being my first guest.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. Bragging rights.
Yes.
And look, I gotta show off my shirt. Maybe coffee is addicted to me. I love me a good spoken word t-shirt.
Yes, me too. Me too. And that's what one of my friends from church said. You got all the good t-shirts.
Yes, I love a good, and it's soft and
especially when they're soft. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Love you too. Yes. All right, lady.
Bye.
Bye.